Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the Puritan and we get to hear from George Pye-board again today, but in Act 1, Scene 4. And we just finished Act 1, Scene 2, and today's monologue comes from the very end of Act 1, Scene 4. So we have a lot of catching up that we need to do. So first, Lady Pless's husband is dead. She's very sad about it. Her daughter, one of her daughters wants to get married. The other one doesn't care. Her son Edmund might not be on the up and up. And then we got to meet Pye-board and Skirmish. Pye-board being a scholar, Skirmish being an ex-soldier, and they don't like the world in peacetime because it's not exciting and they're very poor. So they have decided that Pye-board is going to disguise himself as a fortune teller, Skirmish is going to disguise himself as a conjurer, and they are going to try to con Lady Pless to some extent. But then they saw that Captain Idle was being arrested, so they went to find out what was going on with him. And that was the end of Act 1, Scene 2. So Act 1, Scene 3, we're on the street and we get to meet yet another cast of characters. We have Corporal Oath enter from one side, and he's just described as a vainglorious fellow. And then on the other side, we get Nicholas St. Tantalings, Simon St. Mary Ovaries, and Frailty, who got cheated out of a nice long name that the other ones all had. But the three of them are all serving men of Lady Pless, and they come in on the other side. And the serving men are like, "Oh, we're not supposed to talk to you, Corporal Oath." And Oath is like, "Oh, phooey on that." And he goes over and he shakes all of their hands, and there's some smack talk back and forth between like the Puritans versus the rogues. And they make fun of Oath for having really bad breath, some of which almost ventures into like sexual innuendo. Some of the things, I mean, blowing, whatever. But yeah, so there's some of that back and forth until Oath finally says that he's on his way to go help Captain Idle, who is his captain, and he's been arrested. And then Nicholas St. Antlings is like, "Oh, he's my, third cousin twice removed, whatever. They're related in some distant way." And Oath is like, "Well, then why aren't you helping him?" And Nicholas is like, "Because this is the first I'm hearing of it." So Nicholas agrees to go with Oath to help Idle and asks the other two to cover for him in his duties as being a serving man. And there's a little bit of like mishearing of words and that sort of thing, but they agree that they will cover for him. And as Nicholas and Oath go off, and then there's a final like dig at the local priest for how much he eats, and then Frailty and Simon exit too. And that's the end of Act 1, Scene 3. So Act 1, Scene 4, we're in the prison. We're in Idle's cell, and Pye-board and Skirmish show up, and they come in to talk to him, and there's the greetings, and there's the, "Oh my goodness, this smells like a prison" kind of thing. And Skirmish asks what Idle is in for, and Idle says that he was arrested for stealing this guy's purse, like stealing his wallet, his bag of money, whatever. But to add insult to injury, he got caught stealing the purse, but there also wasn't a lot of money in the purse to begin with. So he's like, "Yeah, it was stupid of me to take that specific one because I wasn't going to get much out of it to begin with. And then I end up getting arrested, and who knows, I might end up being killed here in jail. So good luck there for me." And then Oath and Nicholas show up, and Idle is so angry that Nicholas is there because he thinks that Nicholas is basically a worthless human being. So he pulls Oath aside and he's like, "Why did you bring this guy to help? Like, this guy, even if he could help, I wouldn't want his help because he's useless. He's worthless. Like, what is he doing here?" So Pye-board suggests that Idle and Nicholas, since they're related, he's like, "Why don't you guys just switch clothes? And then Idle can walk out of here because the guards will think that it's Nicholas, and that's how we get Idle out of prison." And so there's a little bit of hemming and hawing about the merits of this plan. And finally they're like, "All right," Idle goes to Nicholas and he's like, "All right, what if you steal your master's chain and then we can sell it and buy Idle's freedom with it?" But Nicholas doesn't want to steal anything because he's a Puritan, and that whole "thou shalt not steal" thing, he gets really caught up on the word steal. He's like, "I'm not going to steal anything." And Pye-board is like, "Well, what if you nim it from him?" Which, as near as I can tell, nimming was either a game where there was like a pile of stuff and two people taking stuff from the pile, and you try to make it so the other person is the last one that has to take stuff from the pile, or it could just be another word for like borrowing it. But Nicholas feels better about this word nim than he does about stealing. So Pye-board is like, okay, we'll go with that, but we're going to take it a step farther, and we want you to steal the chain and put it on this rosemary bush so that we can get Idle out of prison, and then we'll be able to get the chain back to your master. And so, like, no harm, no foul. It'll all be great. And Nicholas is like, okay, but what do you need me to do? And he's like, well, you're going to have to be an actor in this. And again, Nicholas gets all hung up on the word actor because as a Puritan, he's not supposed to act. So Pye-board is like, what about intermeddler? Can you be an intermeddler in this? And Nicholas is like, okay, yes, good. So what Nicholas is supposed to do, and this plot is explained about halfway, but what Nicholas is supposed to do is take the chain from his master and hang it on this bush. And then presumably Pye-board would go and get the chain. And while the master is so angry that the chain has been stolen, Nicholas can say to him, well, I know this guy who's in prison who basically has the devil in his back pocket, and he's a conjurer and he's a magician, whatever. He can help get your chain back. So then presumably the master would go visit Idle in jail. Pye-board will have given the chain to Idle, so Idle now gives the chain back to the master. The master is so happy about that he then coordinates to get Idle released and get him pardoned because he did this huge favor. So we get Idle out, but the master gets his chain back. No harm, no foul. Everybody's happy. So, but it's only explained about as far as putting the chain on the rosemary bush. And Nicholas is like, okay, yes, I can do that. I can do that. And as he's leaving, he's like, look at me. I'm such a good family member. And there's nothing that I wouldn't do to help you, Idle. And he leaves. And then as soon as he's gone, Idle is like, isn't this great that I have such an idiot for a relative? Because he'll just go along with whatever it is that we're going to say now at this point. So, and Idle puts his faith in Pye-board's plan. And then Pye-board is like, okay, cool, we'll have that one going. But at the same time, I have this other plan and I need your help. I need Oath's help and I need Skirmish's help. And what I need you to do is I need you to go in front of Lady Plus's window and start a fight. Like, pull out your swords and start like bashing them into each other, like a little clink, clink, a little clink, clink. And Oath is like, yeah, we can do that. And Pye-board says, today's monologue, he says, I know you can. And out of that false fire, I doubt not but to raise strange belief. And, Captain, to countenance my device better, and grace my words to the widow, I have a good plain satin suit that I had of a young reveller the other night. For words pass not regarded nowadays unless they come from a good suit of clothes, which the fates and my wits have bestowed upon me. Well, Captain Idle, if I did not highly love thee, I would ne'er be seen within 12 score of a prison. For I protest at this instant I walk in great danger of small debts. I owe money to several hostesses, and you know such jills will quickly be upon a man's jack. Which is also a very interesting sexual innuendo that he ends that with. But what he's saying is, I want you guys to stage this fight outside of her window, and then I'm going to come in and, sort of fix everything. But to make myself more credible, I need a good suit because people don't listen to anybody unless they're dressed well these days. But it just so happens I have this lovely suit. So like all of that is good. And then he takes a very sharp left turn. He's like, well, Captain, I love you, but I really shouldn't be in prison right now because there are actual reasons to throw me in prison right now. So I owe a bunch of people money, and if any of the hostesses that I owe money to happens to see me here, they will make sure that I never leave. So he's like, I gotta go right now. I will share more with you guys later. And they're like, later? We'll learn more? And he's like, yep. So then the non-prisoners leave the prison, and Captain Idle is left by himself in the jail. And he's like, okay, I will get out of here at some point. And that's the end of Act 1, Scene 4. So a lot of explanation for a very short monologue, but we have two scams going on at the same time. One scam to get Idle out of prison involving the stealing of somebody's chain, and one scam to get Lady Plus that involves a fight between Oath and Skirmish outside her window that Pye-board is then going to come in and break up. So loads to follow. I hope you were able to keep up with all of that. But if not, we'll do a brief recap before we get into tomorrow's monologue. So I will see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.